This video is sponsored by Audible, and for a limited time, you can get more than 50% off 3 months of Audible by using the link in the description below to sign up. So just to let you know up front, this is going to be a bit more of a stripped down video, especially in comparison to the last video, but I think what we're going to talk about today doesn't need a super bombastic approach, and it certainly doesn't need 1,000 different camera angles. So what I want to talk about today is burnout. And the reason that I want to talk about it is that in 2019, I went through a period of true burnout. I was creatively exhausted. I started to take a very cynical approach to how I looked at my work and how I looked at my life in some cases. And it was different than any year before that. I've definitely gone through stressful periods before, but this year, around May, maybe April, I got to a point where things just were not good. I was looking very negatively towards my work, and part of the reason was that I sort of felt trapped by the work that I had built for myself. And it was kind of funny because nobody was telling me to do what I was doing. Everything that I do on a daily basis is something that I decided to do since I run my own business, and yet I felt like there wasn't a way out. But with the help of some other people and with some better decisions that I've made since those months, I've actually been able to come out of that burnout and get back a lot of that creative energy and just that fire for life and for my work that I used to have. So what I want to talk about in this video is, number one, how I burned out, but number two, and more importantly, how I got past that burnout. Because I think a lot of people go through this, especially as we constantly put more and more expectations on ourselves. And I think this is partly due to the influences we all have via the internet and social media. We often feel a lot of pressure, and that can lead to burnout. But I think it's something that we can definitely get over. So in my case, I felt burned out because of my schedule. I was putting out so much content, and as you probably know if you've watched a lot of my content, I'm really not content to do the same kind of video over and over again. I like to find something new and innovative that I can do with every piece of content that I create. But I also have a schedule to stick to. And to pull back the curtain a little bit on how my business works, as you probably know, I have sponsors on most of the videos that I do. And things have gotten to the point over the past couple of years where sponsors would book out several months in advance, meaning that I had deadlines and I had kind of a schedule that I would stick to. And I am a person who tends to bite off more than I can chew. I get overly ambitious, especially when it comes to what future Tom can do, because in my head, future Tom is not burdened by all of the myriad to-do items that present Tom has to do. So I will happily saddle future Tom with many, many, many commitments. And I got to the point where I had 4 videos a month, sometimes 5, scheduled out months and months and months in advance. And as a lot of entrepreneurs do, I had started to build a team. So now not only was my livelihood on the line, but other people's livelihoods were on the line as well. I felt that if I were to scale back the amount of content I was producing, I would be letting down my team in a very real, tangible way. So as a result, I kind of felt trapped, and months and months and months went by where I would, push up against deadlines. I would feel creatively exhausted, and I would always tell myself, next month, I'll just work harder. Next month, I'll just be more efficient. And this is always my go-to solution for everything. I just think, if I'm having a tough time right now, if things are stressful, it is my fault because I have been inefficient, and I just need to work harder the next time around, the next month. And there's some truth to that. I think a lot of these mental prisons we put ourselves in are built on a foundation of at least a kernel of truth. Like, I could actually be more efficient, but that's not always the crux of the problem. There's often something more fundamental that needs to be addressed. And in my case, it was the number of commitments that I had. Because I have a desire to make everything that I create high quality and often have different innovative elements, or because I often learn something new and want to incorporate it into everything I make afterwards, I just can't put out the same amount of content that certain other YouTubers can. So here's how I got out of my burnout. And I know this is not a very highly structured video, but I'm just kind of speaking from the heart here. So number one, and this might not be as actionable for some people, but I did take a break. I went on vacation with my girlfriend, and unlike most of the vacations I have taken in my life since becoming an adult, I made this one an actual vacation. I did as much as I could to cut work out of my life. I have a great team and they were able to take care of some things. We were able to work ahead to get things done in advance, and I was able to actually relax. But much more importantly, I cut back on my commitments. I had a conversation with the guy who runs my agency, and I asked him if he would help me move things around so I would get down to a bit of a sparser schedule. And when I did that, something really surprising happened. I immediately started to get ideas again. I immediately started to become interested in things that I would normally get agitated at, like when a new project came across my plate or something that I would maybe want to get interested in. As part of my burnout, I would just get agitated because it would feel like that thing would take too much of my time and I already had so much going on, I couldn't even pay it any attention. The moment I committed to cutting back my schedule, I started to have a more open outlook towards new things. I had a lot of that interest for life in general coming back. And the interesting thing was the way that my agent had to move things around made it so that I still had to do 4 videos in June. And the cut down schedule wasn't going to start until July. So I still had a full month of the same workload, but just knowing that my schedule was going to open up and I was going to have more breathing room in the near future, it took a lot of pressure off of me. It took a weight off my shoulders. So if you're in a place where you are feeling burned out, I think the number one thing you have to do is figure out how you can cut down on the number of commitments in your life. And this is really, really tough. I put off doing this for so long because, again, I felt like I literally couldn't. I felt like I had to keep up my content schedule because otherwise I wouldn't be able to pay my team what they deserved. And the reason I felt this way is I did not have an accurate, concrete picture of everything that was going on. I just had this sort of ethereal feeling that if I stopped working as hard as I was working, then everything was going to crash and burn. And I think a lot of people have this fear. So here's what's probably going to be the most practical piece of advice in this video. When you realize that you need to reduce the number of commitments in your life, sit down, write them all out, and see exactly what you are going to sacrifice. So in my case, my big fear was that I was not going to make enough money to pay my team, but I hadn't really sat down and done the math. So I broke out my big spreadsheet that I use to track my entire business and life finances. I don't do crazy, in-depth budgeting on a month-to-month basis on this, but I do put in average income numbers, average expense numbers, and this gets me a pretty accurate estimate of how much is going to be left over at the end of the month after everything is said and done. So I broke that spreadsheet out and I changed the number of videos that I was doing per month from 4 to 1 to see what it would do. And I think putting it to 1 would have put me in the red every month. So I brought it up to 2. And interestingly enough, at 2 videos a month, my business would have started breaking even. So I wouldn't have been saving any money, but I would have been able to continue paying my salary and I wouldn't have had to give anyone a pay cut. And I would have cut my salary before giving anyone else a pay cut, but I wouldn't have even had to do that. And that was such a different picture than what I had in my head before. I thought if I stop working as hard as I'm working right now, everything's going to crash and burn. Not if I stop working as hard as I'm working, then everything's just going to slow down, which is a much more palatable future. And once I had that data, I realized that I could actually slow down. The world wasn't going to end. I would just grow a little bit more slowly. So get straight on your priorities, be willing to make some sacrifices, and get as much data as you can on those sacrifices. Couple more things that I did. Number 1, I had to come to the realization that not every single piece of content that I create can be at the exact same level. And I think a lot of artists struggle with this, but there are also a lot of artists out there who completely understand it. There are bands that do, crazy albums with entire orchestras, and then on the next album, they'll strip it back. They'll go back to just 4 people in the band, guitar, bass, drums, and a singer, and that's it. And that's fine. There's this ebb and flow to the amount of craziness they put into each piece of art. I struggle with that. When I make a video like the 1 hour morning routine, which took me like 5 full days of work to make, I start to feel like every single video I make in the future has to be that good and that crazy and technical and effortful. Otherwise, I'm not working to my full potential. But that's just not how it works. We don't always have to do the exact same thing at the exact same level. Finally, and this is a bit more of a philosophical thing, but I've taken more seriously the knowledge that there's never going to be a magical moment where I have attained enough success that I will just let myself slow down. That doesn't exist. But I believe that I am not alone in having that as like a thought in the back of my head that if I just do this and this and this, then I'll take a break, then I'll slow down. But that's not how it works. That when I was 25, I thought that, but I got to 28 and I've accomplished a lot of what I wanted to accomplish back when I was 25. And now there's like 1,000 more things I want to accomplish. So I've just become, again, okay with slower progress because in exchange, I get a better work-life balance. I have less chronic stress. And I also have time to pursue things that are really interesting, things that I probably would have found aggravating because I was so overwhelmed just 6 months ago. Now those things truly are interesting again. And one of those things is actually music, which is why I've taken the time to build this new studio and set it up for music production. I've been doing a lot more guitar practice and piano practice lately. And I've also been going through a really excellent book called How Music Works by David Byrne, who was one of the founding members of the Talking Heads band. It is a fantastic book. I'm really enjoying it. And you can listen to it on Audible if you go over to audible.com/Thomas or by texting Thomas to 500 on your phone and signing up. And you might want to do that soon because for a limited time, you can get 3 months of Audible service for just $6.95 per month, which is more than 50% off the normal monthly subscription price. Of course, Audible has the best selection of audiobooks on the internet. They have all the bestsellers, lots of really obscure titles. They have biographies, science fiction books. They have lots of music science books, actually. And every single month, you get 1 credit that is good for any audiobook title in their library, plus 2 Audible originals that you cannot get anywhere else. So once again, if you want to get started and get 3 months of Audible for more than 50% off, go over to audible.com/Thomas or text Thomas to 500 on your phone to sign up. Thanks as always for watching. Hopefully this kind of rambly video was helpful for you. I honestly had a lot of trouble getting over this burnout myself, and I had to have a lot of conversations with friends and people that I trust and that love me to get over it. So hopefully some of my experience is helpful for you to hear about. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do that right there to get notifications about new videos when they come out on this channel. Otherwise, you can check out a couple of more videos right here and right here. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in my next video.